O'clock, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Would you join me in the pledge of the flag, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Lynn, would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Vanderwater?
Here.
Ms. Wozniak?
Here.
Mr. Tupper?
Here.
Ms. Dickman?
Here.
Mr. Jasinski?
Here.
Ms. Saban?
Here.
Mr. Sykes?
Here. Entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the October 20th Town Board meeting.
Moved.
Second.
Any discussion, comments, changes, questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are going to continue with the public hearing on local law A 2020, property maintenance law. We're going to take comments from the Zoom people first, and then we'll do the in-person comments here if there are any. So anyone on Zoom wishing to speak in favor of the proposed local law A 2020?
Claude, do we need to go into public hearing mode?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I got to back up. I'm getting ahead of myself. Entertain a motion to go in, recess the regular meeting, go into public hearing mode once again on local law A 2020, the property maintenance law.
Moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Now, anyone on Zoom wishing to speak in favor of the proposed local law?
I'd
Nope.
like to speak, but I'm not in favor.
Okay, we'll get to those that are opposed to it in just a second.
Okay.
Anyone else that is in favor of the local law? Okay, if you're opposed, please give us your name and address.
My name is Sue Allen. I live at 7199 West Dead Creek Road, Baldwinsville, New York, and I'm opposed to this new proposal. I sent a letter into the clerk yesterday expressing my dissatisfaction with how this whole thing has been handled, and my concerns. Was that shared with anybody?
Did you get one from her? We didn't see anything come in the town clerk's office from you.
Didn't come in, it came through email, that's what the messenger said to send it to you.
Yes.
So you got nothing, right?
Didn't get anything from you.
Okay, I'm looking for my letter because I'd be happy to share it with you, but, in summary, you know, instead of trying to make us into something we're not in the township of Buren, why don't we speak to the people that have sites that you're not happy with and see what we can do to help them instead of trying to shove stuff down their throats. I believe this has already gone to the board several times and it was against, but we keep pushing it, you keep pushing it on. Let's have conversations with people and say, your lawn's unsightly. What can we as a township do to help you instead of trying to shove codes down everybody's? Because each case should be considered different. We are not Radisson. I don't choose to live there. I choose to live out in the country. And for the people who don't keep up on their stuff, you can go down Connors Road and find the crap they dump all the time. So I did send a letter to the clerk. It went through email. I will resend it. But I am very, very dissatisfied with the whole way that this is being handled. We're in the middle of a pandemic. You know, this should not be a top priority. The priority should be, what can we do to help people?
Okay, anything else?
I'm a little disconcerted my letter wasn't opened up, but.
Well, I know she gave us, what'd you give us yesterday? 2 yesterday.
And there were 8 altogether.
Eight from the last 3 days, so, but we didn't see any from you, Sue.
Okay, I'll drop one off tomorrow.
That or try emailing it again.
Okay.
What'd you use for an address?
Yeah, what'd you use for an address? Do you recall?
Oh, I used the one that was in the messenger that said, to send it to the clerk, here we go. Send it to the clerk, I don't know what it was, I can't put my finger on it at this point in time, but it was last week's messenger that said, property maintenance hearing continues.
Okay, well, it's clerk@townofvanburen.com, correct?
Yes.
And that's pretty much, I think, where I sent it.
No dots,
No,
except for .com.
that's all. Please try to send it again, Sue.
I will try and send it when we finish what we're talking about here. So I am definitely opposed as a tax person that pays taxes, that's lived in this township for 58 plus years, and who feels like we aren't getting anything more, and we want to change something when we're not even working on what's happening now. So I am against.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else on Zoom that's opposed to the proposed local law?
Yes, my name's Dan Betsy. Live at 7 Buccaneer Ave, Baldwinsville, New York. I'm against this proposal. I also sent in a letter to the town clerk, delivered it in person, so.
Yes, we got that one. Anything else? Dan?
No, I just approved the whole thing in whole.
Okay.
Tell me what I gotta do with what I can and can't do with my property that I pay taxes on. Just for the entire place. As a consequence, you're gonna put me in jail. I don't
We'll,
follow your
we'll do
rules.
something.
No, don't like it, want that.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else on Zoom that is opposed to this proposed local law? Okay. Anyone on Zoom now that is in favor of the proposed local law? Okay, seeing no activity, we're going to move on to in-person comments. Anyone here in the audience that's opposed to the proposed local law? Seeing none, anyone in the audience that is in favor of the proposed local law? Step up to the mic, please. State your name and address.
Get a close-up.
I'm Tony Geis at 202 Crandon Terrace. I guess I'm not considered a native by a lot of my friends here, but I've been in the town since the early 70s as a resident. I've also been involved in planning and zoning in the town since the early 80s. Okay, years ago, in the planning and zoning, we struggled to get properties to clean up. And I can especially remember cars that were wrecks that we couldn't get cleaned up. And I know the code officer struggled a lot trying to get people to comply, and not, you know, just asking them once, but going back to them many, many times to clean up the yards, okay? Recently, even in my own neighborhood, we had an instance where we had a very much derelict van up the street. And I know for a fact that the town officials, code, board members tried to talk to the people and even offered to cover it up or do something with it. And there were 2 vans in the driveway, and they made the whole neighborhood look bad. And luckily, they have since cleaned that up, and what a difference it makes as you drive up the road. All right? I know what work went into this, and it isn't something that happened just since COVID. It was started years ago, or at least I know over a year ago, by the Land Use Committee. And to that end, I must commend the Land Use Committee for all the meetings they put in, all the effort they put in to develop this, which I think is a very good code. and especially Mary Francis for leading that committee. It's a lot of input went into this by a lot of people, but it also covers a lot of things for properties. I don't see it as a detriment to my property by complying with this code, and I don't see it as anything close to being like a Radisson situation where they've come down heavy-handed on people. This is really, let's clean up the yards, let's clean up the neighborhood, but it's very much, and I'll call them derelict properties that really need to get cleaned up, all right? I support this local law and recommend that you pass it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience that would like to speak in favor of the proposed local law? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing on proposed local law A 2020.
Moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item number 2 is a public hearing on the 2021 towns and special district budgets with a presentation of the 2021 budgets by our comptroller, Greg Maxwell. Greg, the floor is yours.
For the people at home, we do have the slides that we are presenting in the town hall on your Zoom as a shared folder. So I'm going to kind of watch the operator of the Zoom to make sure we're on the same slide.
Greg, can you hold on one second? Can the people on Zoom hear Mr. Maxwell?
He's got everybody muted.
Do you want to use the mic,
Yeah,
though?
give him that portable mic, would you, Jordan, please? Thank you. I know you don't like to use it, but for them, we've almost got to.
Oh, well, we got the mic on this one too,
Yeah,
then. Okay, here we go.
you got to get it close to your mouth, we know that.
Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to the budget hearing. And
Yeah, it's on.
it's not very loud. But tonight we're going to talk about the town of Van Buren's budget, a little bit of background. The budget, the town operates under the New York State laws on accounting, which is a fund-based accounting system. What that means is very simply different services provided by the town is separated into different funds. Each fund has its own balance sheet, income statement, expenses, cash accounts, retained earnings or fund balance, the whole 9 yards. It's like operating a bunch of companies. The town has, this is a question I asked some of the board members, how many funds and tax rates do we have? We have 46. So there's 46 different tax rates in the town of Van Buren, and how much any one person pays depends on where you live. Tonight we're going to be talking mostly on the total budget, not each fund, because I know how interesting it is for some of the elected officials to go fund by fund. And some of them are tired from last night, but we won't get into that.
But we also have gone through each individual fund already as a board.
Okay, the total spending for 2021 is $5,234,000. That represents an increase of $44,000 or 0.85% over 2020. Breaking it down a little bit where the money is going is, you can see wages is the biggest single item at 39% of the total spending. Benefits comes in at 16, or a combination of wages and benefits is 55%. Now, if we want to take it a little bit more, because there's only 3 funds that have payroll or wages in it. And those 3 funds, the rates of the wages and benefits on how much they comprise of the fund range from 48% to 72% of the fund. The next biggest item, what they call consumables, is really expenses that have no lasting value. You use them and they go away. Capital costs are exactly what that means: trucks, furniture, so forth. And we have a little bit of debt, 0.3. We have really 3 bonds. One will expire in 2023. We have a ban or a short-term loan for a pumping station for the homes around the town hall. And we just did a bond for the highway garage. Getting into the categories of spending, wages are up 6.7% in 2021. The benefits are up 5.89%. The fixed assets for the capital costs are down 17%, 113,000. The consumables, the office supplies and things like that, 12,000 up. Debt, 29,000 down. The town does not really issue a lot of debt, and that's why you see that going down. Salary and wages, an increase of $127,000, 6.7% compared to 2020.
That does not mean the employees got a 6.7% wage increase.
Now we're going to explain it right now. Bargaining union agreement is for most of the employees. Almost everybody is in a union. The building and grounds in the office, their increase is 3% in 2021. The highway agreement expired in December 2019. Negotiations are ongoing. The non-represented employees are getting a 3%. And there's 5 people eligible to retire in 2021. The budget includes payouts for unused sick time and vacation time and any overlap for new employees that will be replacing them. For example, I'm going to be retiring and leaving in 2021. So there is in the budget money to hire my replacement while I'm still here so they can learn how to do this next year.
I think it's important to add that the board didn't get an increase.
The board did not get an increase, no. Benefits, employee benefits, increased 46,000, 5.9% in 2021. Something we always get asked on, what is the benefit percentage of payroll? People always like to, we get into this quite often. For every dollar of payroll, it's 41 cents in benefits, 41% benefit rate. So if you hire someone, pay them $100 a week, you're paying $41 in benefits also.
On top of the.
On top of the wage. Benefit costs, New York State retirement, you see that's stable. Social Security, Medicare, 7.65, that's the rate that's mandated. Workman's compensation, we've had very good experience with reducing accidents and injuries, so that's been going down. Unemployment, as you can see, we kept it the same as this year. Disability and health insurance. Health insurance is up 14%. Employer retirement costs. This is New York State retirement. 13.9% is the blended rate that the town is paying for every dollar for the employees who are in the retirement system. Every full-time employee is in the retirement system, that's mandated. We are paying next year an average of 13.9%. Now, New York State retirement is very simple. Depending on when you're hired, you're in what they call a different tier. And they have 6 tiers right now. Our employees are in tiers 4, 5, and 6. If you happen to be the newest people hired, you we're paying 10% of your salaries in New York State. People in Tier 4, which is the majority of employees, we're paying 16% of your wages in New York State for retirement. So as people retire and new hires come in, they're going into a different tier than the current employees, and it's a cheaper cost for the town. Health insurance. In 2021, about $400,000 for health insurance, 14% more than 2020. The rates that we put in, we're expecting increases anything between 8 and 12%. Full-time employees and retirees pay 25% of the premium. Part-timers pay 50% of the premium. If you're a retiree, when you reach 65, you go on the Medicare Advantage plan. As I said before, there could be as many as 5 employees retiring in 2021, and most of them will qualify for health insurance upon retirement. So that's where the added cost is, as you saw in the previous slide. Capital and infrastructure, this is really your fixed assets, and that's down 100. The total next year is 521,000. That's a decrease of 113,000. Road paving, building new roads, that's the biggest item, 475,000. The highway garage, equipment for the highway garage, 25,000. Building and grounds, these are lawnmowers, I think there's 2 of them, that's 14,000. And replacing computers on the desktops, we replace them about every 4 years. That's 6,800. Now what you don't see is vehicles, because how we handle new vehicles for the building and code, building and grounds, the code, highway superintendent, and the highway department, actually, the trucks. We put the money into a reserve each year, and instead of going out and going to the bank and creating debt, we pay cash for the reserve. In 2020, we bought 2 vehicles, 2 pickups, and that was about $50,000, 40 to 50,000, and that's why you see the drop, because we will be adding to the reserve, then we will use the money in the reserve as needed. And I believe there is a new truck coming in next year. Consumables, like I said, that's the electricity, office supplies, and so forth. And that's pretty stable. It's up less than 1%, $12,000. Some of the big items, road salt, $225,000. Street lighting, $190,000 for street lighting. And street lighting is in one of the 46 districts. That's not into one fund, that's spread out among 10 or 12 funds. Road repairs, $180,000. That's highway. Sewer repairs, $100,000. You see drainage, $95,000. Most of that is in the Seneca Knowles area. Equipment repairs, legal, that's the attorneys. Vehicle supplies, you can see. We support Hamptonwood Senior Center, $67,000. Insurance, that's consumables. There's no lasting value to them, and it's every year similar. Debt service, as I mentioned, is down 29,000, 16% over 2020. That's because we're not going out and issuing new debt. Revenue, that's your spending, a little bit more than $5 million in spending. And we got to figure out how we're going to pay for it. Well, we have the revenues, we have fees, shared service agreements, and state aid. That's non-property tax items. We have funds not spent in previous years. The technical name is appropriated fund balance. What you see in the newspaper and the TV channels is the rainy day fund, as they call it, but it's really surplus in previous years. And property taxes, that's the revenue. Non-property tax revenues, 1.5 million. That's an increase of 35,000 or 2%. Again, some of the big items. We plow the roads for the county, or some of the roads, we get 300,000, 321 for that. Pilots is payment in lieu of taxes. is $170,000. That's agreements that's made by the county development authority and for places like Sirocco, D&C Foods, and so forth. Park and rec fees, $162,000. That's your swimming pool, swim lessons, the craft programs that we conduct. Cable franchise fees, if you have cable TV, you pay, I think it's 5%.
3.5.
3.5%. That's the fee, and we get some of that. Then, in turn, we give 14% of the cable franchise fees to PAC-B for them to operate. That's how PAC-B gets their money, a lot of it. Mortgage tax, $187,000 if you buy a house or remortgage. That's where that money comes from. State aid from the highway, that's CHIPS money for paving. That's $121,000. State revenue sharing used to be called, the new name is AIM. It's actually, this comes from the state and it comes from sales tax on the internet. New York State passed a law 2019 about sales tax on internet sales. That's what gives us that $99,000. Shared service agreement, that's with the assessor, with the town of Lysander, both towns share. And the rest you can kind of see the court fines, building permits, dog licenses, late fees on taxes. We have we have some land that we lease to a solar company. We get $12,800 for that. Now, appropriated fund balance. That's the next part of the revenue. Amounts not spent in previous years, and that's actually the surpluses of accumulated. We're going to use $560,000 in 2021. That's the total. One of the things that we're able to do, use that much money, because when the pandemic hit, the town very quickly stopped programs in Parks and Rec to save expense. We knew that have no revenues coming in, we stopped the expense, and we actually have been able to save quite a bit of money by doing that. And we're going to use it next year. So it leads down, you got your spending, $5 million, you saw the revenues, $1.5 million, the $500,000 in fund balance, so there's one item less, property taxes. And that's what we need to run the town. $3.1 million, $80,000 increase, 2.6% higher than in 2021. Now, does that mean everybody's taxes are going up 2.6%? We'll find out. To get into it, we do the tax rates. One is ad valorem, that is on your assessed value. And we also have the tax rate based on a unit charge. Unit charge is usually sewers, sometimes water. The water is fire hydrants, and yes, you do pay for the fire hydrants in front of your house. That's the unit charge, and it's a per unit per person. Now, talking about assessed values is how you divide up the taxes. So if you take your assessed value divided by the total assessed value, that's your piece of how much property tax, your percentage that you're going to pay. In 2021, that's for the people here. If I can't see the number, I'm sure you can. Total assessed value in the town of Van Buren is $749 million. That's an increase of 4.43% over 2020. That's the new houses going in, that's increasing the assessed values, and you can see from the trend line, we have been going up every year. The last 3 years, 3.6%, 4.3, 4.4. Remember that number, 4.4, assessed value going up. Because if you think back, your taxes, we need 2.64% more in tax money 2.64 is less than 4.4, so that's something always to remember. Because what that does, if your assessed value did not go up, or if it went up less than 4%, you're gonna see a tax decrease. For the general whole town fund, we have one fund out of the 46. Everybody in the town, inside the village, outside the village pays. That's the general whole town. Tax rate, $1.72, 1.81 decrease. We have a per-town general fund, because there's some parts of, and the general fund is only applies to outside the village of Baldwinsville. We have no tax there. The highway fund, your tax rate 2.18, down 0.81. So in our these are the three main funds for the town. We have a tax decrease on the rates. And individual taxes will depend on their assessed value. If it went up less than 4%, they're going to show a drop. You can see the tax rates. These are trend lines. The top one, the green one, is your highway fund. That's been going down the last 6 years. The one in the middle, that's the whole town. Everybody in the town pays that. That's pretty stable, 1.718. A year ago it was 1.75, so that's down. That's for everybody. And the one on the bottom is the per town. There's been 0 taxes on there since 2017. No one's had to pay anything. So overall, the tax rates are going down. That's a good thing. And this is something that we go through every year. I usually use a $100,000 home each year, but some people wanted to use the average. The average home in the town of Van Buren, $124,500. That's your average. And on that, if you live inside the village of Baldwinsville, you're going to pay $214 on that house. If you live outside the village, you pay on the general fund and the highway fund, and you're going to pay $485. That's the taxes. Then on top of that is all the special districts. Special districts would be street lighting, sewers, drainage, water. And depending on where you live, it's going to be a different rate. So if you want to know exactly what your rate would be, on the town website, we have a complete tax rate sheet that shows every special district, every fund that we have, all 46 of them. And that's the end of the presentation.
Okay. Questions from the board?
Nice job, Greg, as always.
Of course, the board has seen this. We had 2 different nights of work sessions on the town and special district budgets, so we knew what the outcome was going to be. I want to thank the department heads for submitting reasonable budgets that allows us to reduce those tax rates. We depend on the department heads to do what's right by the taxpayers, and they, again, this year they did that. So with that, I'd entertain a motion. Let's see, do we open the public hearing for this? Entertain a motion to open the public hearing on the 2021 town and special district budgets.
Moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're in public hearing mode. Those on Zoom, anyone that's opposed to the proposed budget, like to speak?
I have a question on the budget.
Go ahead.
Okay, again, this is Sue Allen. My question is, everybody got a 3% raise, but the highway department hasn't had a raise since 2019?
We've been in negotiations with their bargaining unit since then.
So the statement stands that they haven't come to a decision, but everybody else got a 3% raise, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Interesting.
If I can interject, the Office and Building and Grounds Union has a contract for the non-represented, the town has always used the philosophy of the same percentage as the union that is here in the office. The highway department, those employees, as the supervisor said, the negotiations on their contract are ongoing, and what will happen on their raises will be negotiated with the union. We can't just give them an automatic raises until the end of negotiations.
And it's been going on over a
Does the board
year.
have an idea when those end of negotiations might be finished? Because it seems like it's been, a year? I don't know.
When both sides come to an agreement, when it'll be finished, there's no set schedule. It's when both sides can have a meeting of the minds.
And we've been negotiating over a year with them.
Yeah, I saw that in your thing, 1 year, yes.
Anything else, Sue?
Nope, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else have a question or opposed to the proposed budget? Anyone on Zoom that's in favor of the proposed budget? Seeing none, anyone here in the audience that is opposed to the proposed budget? Not seeing anyone. Anyone here in the audience that's in favor of the proposed budgets? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing on the town and special district budgets for 2021. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3, action on local law A 2020, the property maintenance law. We've had several iterations of this. It's been going on for about 2.5 months. The first public hearing, there was quite a few people that sent in comments and gave comments via Zoom or in person here. We refined the law after that based on some of those comments. We had another public hearing. There were still more comments that come in. We further refined the law based on those comments. And so we're where we are here tonight with the last iteration, the third iteration of this property maintenance code. So with that, I'd entertain a motion to adopt the local law A 2020.
Moved.
Discussion.
I just want to remind everybody that when the Land Use Committee started with this last August, it was based on complaints from town residents that we are not doing enough to clean up the properties, the problem properties in town. This was not something we started because we wanted to add another code. We can always go by the New York State Code, and their fines are $1,000 a day, if I remember, and there is no grace period to clean it up. If you are fined by the New York State Code, it is what it is. With this code, we did take most of what was in the existing code. We did add definitions, because a lot of the problems that the code officers told us was that they did not have the proper language, the exact written words as to what the problems were that the code officer was trying to correct. New York State says it's got to be clean, safe, and sanitary. Some people were questioning exactly what clean, safe, and sanitary was. So we went ahead, put in more definition so that it's very subjective, so that it's not just somebody can just come in and say, oh, I don't like what you're doing. And I don't even know how many different drafts of this we've gone through in the past year. And then since it has been presented, we've done 3 additional changes. And we did listen to the residents. There were comments on both sides, and we tried to take that into account. And no one really is trying to make this into a Radisson community. It is simply to give the code officer the teeth that they need to do to clean up the offending properties. That's it.
Anyone else?
I would like to.
Speak into the mic.
Okay, the codes officer actually has had a lot of input into this also. And as Mary Frances mentioned, when she said last August, she meant August of 2019. So this started way, way before the pandemic, and just continued to work on it and listening to people. And some of this I've mentioned before, but I'd like to reiterate it. I've been a Realtor over 30 years, and as many of you've heard, the term location, location, location is one of the most important items, along with curb appeal, to have somebody get in the door even to consider a purchase on a house. I did speak when we started these public hearings with a number of the other Realtors in my office and that I have had dealings with, and find that they also had similar views as my own regarding the code's updates that we were considering. A house or a yard considered an eyesore in a neighborhood is a deterrent to another house selling. A prospective buyer may not want to live there, or they will consider a nearby property less desirable and of lower value because it's near something that's considered an eyesore. People, I find, want to live in a town, whether it be this one or another, that's interested in helping them protect their investment. We're not talking about restrictive covenants here, but code improvements to know their town, this one, has an interest in helping them maintain their property values. We also have, which if you've been in touch with some of the previous public hearings and the codes officer was here, there's a form if someone has a complaint that they have to fill out and sign, and it necessitates often having the codes officer come on to the complainant's property to view the one that they are complaining about. And they do have to sign the form, so we can't get into just, I don't like my neighbor kind of thing, or they've had difficulties. The current multiple listing system has on any listed property up to 50 outside and inside photos of a given property. So a lot of people are very familiar with the house before they even go to look at it. But a Realtor does not want to take views looking at a yard or even across the street or a couple down that, again, is an eyesore. Prospective buyers, I find personally, and I think the other Realtors do too, will often want to go drive by a property to view the neighborhood and see if they would want to live there. A nearby property that has a lot of debris, overgrown grass, multiple vehicles, especially unregistered, and just generally unsightly and in disrepair, lowers the neighborhood property values. And conversely, an area of well-maintained, attractive properties increases values in general, which I think everybody, likes to have happen with their own home. So that's it. Thank you.
Yeah. About 20 years ago, we didn't have a comprehensive plan for the town. And a group of citizens got together at the request of I think it was Liz Bowers was the supervisor then. We were given disposable cameras and told to go out into the countryside and all over the town to take pictures of what was good and what was bad. And I've lived here all my life, and I couldn't believe some of the things that were bad. I used to get around a lot when I was a kid, and it was really disgusting. So we did that at the request of the supervisor, like I said, and there was general agreement among a wide variety of people. I mean, we had attorneys and people like me that just worked for a living, and homeowners and farmers and all those people, and we agreed that green space was the drawing element to why people wanted to move here. It was bucolic, it was open country, it was gorgeous, and we wanted to keep it that way. Some of the industrial sites some of the commercial sites weren't that good. The parking lots were broken pavement, things like that, all those things that we wanted to get fixed up. And we wrote a very good comprehensive plan. It took a long time. Maybe as long as it did to put this package together. And what I thought to myself, being on the land use committee, is that I don't want to take a step back. I don't want to revert. I don't want to give up on the 97% of the people who came here with a promise of having a sound investment and a quiet retirement home, or whatever reason they wanted to move to Van Buren. The property values here, according to Greg, the total assessed value isn't that high, so the prices must be good. Affordability is a part of that package. And Pat's point, we want to keep those up too. We can't afford to let anything like this slip. So I'm just saying that, from my point of view, this isn't going to hurt anybody that is here for what I consider the right reasons. The existing agricultural activities are hardly affected by this. I don't think they are at all. This is not land use in the same sense that zoning is. This is just keeping things neat and clean. And like you said, if we could all agree on what those words mean, we could cut this down to one page. But the code officer isn't happy with that. And I don't think the judges would be either. I hate to bring it to that point, but some people need a little more urging than others. And that's all I'm trying to do here, is urge people to do the right thing.
Yes.
Ron, you're
Yes,
going to
I
speak?
would like to thank all the other counselors for everything that they mentioned in this property maintenance law. I've been on the town board for many years. We've had these problems come across the town board for a long, long time. We've had different codes officers here, and it was about time for us to take this and take it to the next level and move ahead with it.
Okay. Anyone else?
Tell me well.
Oh, go ahead. Okay, I'll be quick.
Okay.
I'd be remiss to not speak to this. So obviously, when it started and it was first proposed, some original iterations were a really hard sell. I mean, it just seemed as if we were really telling people what they could and couldn't do with their property, which made me very uncomfortable. I think that it's a testament to, and I appreciate the board agreeing to this too. We've held now 4 public hearings on this local law, and the feedback from the public has been incorporated and has made it a better law. I can support this tonight, but I can promise that I will be watching the code enforcement officer over the next year to see what kind of complaints come through and how they're handled, and to see if we've done the right thing here. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay, I just have a couple things I just want to mention. I've been very vocal about being against the property maintenance law. I do agree that the current law needed some amending as far as the violation process, but I do think that some of the restrictions that this law contains is still overreaching. I don't believe property law should have anything to do with aesthetics or what a realtor considers attractive. My opposition is solely based on the rights an owner should have for owning property and paying their taxes. Clean, safe, and public health should be the only issues when dealing with a property maintenance law. And I do want to thank the folks that worked on the committee for their time and the numerous amendments, and taking consideration for what the public has said at the public hearings. It's very obvious that they did hear what the public had to say and made the adjustments accordingly. I just still feel like it's still an overreach of government.
Anyone else before I?
I want to add just one other thing. This property maintenance law is giving someone 30 days grace period to clean up the property after they've been given the courtesy warning. So they've got 30 days to take action. Day 31 is when it would actually become an offense. And the fines that are in this reiteration of the law are the same that were as of the existing. Regarding the jail time, we have only had, in the last 10 or 12 years that I can think of, one person that ended up where the town judge sent them to jail because they refused to comply with the existing property maintenance code. And that is not something that we take lightly. And I think if you look over 10 years, one person, that is not the meaning of this revision. It's simply to get people to understand what are some basic maintenance responsibilities of a homeowner. And not every person resides in their own home. There are a lot of rentals, and the occupant also has to maintain the outside of the property. And that does not always happen. So what we're trying to do is notify the people to clean up the property, and we want them, by giving them 30 days, we're trying to help them to take care of the issues. That's it.
Okay. Early on in one of the earlier public hearings, it was brought up that there's no appeals process for this. The zoning board of appeals, which is part of the planning board, is always available to anyone that thinks that the codes officer is not being fair or unreasonable with them. So the zoning board of appeals is there as kind of an appeals segment of this. And I think a lot of people have forgotten that. Like Howard said, this will not impact 97 to 98% of the properties in the town. It's a few offenders, just like in anything else, that creates the need for these types of things. And unfortunately, they're not willing to police themselves, so we have to go to these measures. And this does not apply to farms. They're excluded under the Ags and Markets thing as a definition of a working farm. So this does not apply to farms. We got a couple comments on this last iteration that from farms, and it does not apply to farms. So just wanted to clarify that. So with that, we have a motion on the floor. Any more discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Vanderwater.
No.
Ms. Lesniak.
Yes.
Mr. Pepper.
Yes.
Ms. Dickman.
Yes.
Mr. Dudzinski.
Yes.
Ms. Saban.
Yes.
Mr. Sykes.
Yes. Item number 4 is action on the 2021 town and special district budgets. Entertain a motion to adopt the 2021 town and special district budgets as shown tonight by our comptroller.
Moved.
Second?
Discussion? Pretty much discussed it with Greg's presentation and comments throughout it, so.
So we can discuss the property values going up.
Yes,
Untold rate, we don't know what's going on.
yeah, we've had our assessor in here. She comes in like every other month and gives an assessor's report. And the property values have been going up the last 3 years to the point where, and everybody's probably heard this, people are getting far more than they originally asked for their properties. And, so we're able to reduce the rates partly because of that. So you need to keep that in mind. And likewise, when your neighbor sells their house for more than it's assessed for now, and more than the market is bearing, that's going to raise the values of all the surrounding homes in that area. And so your taxes are probably going to go up because you're, experiencing higher market values in that area. So that's the other thing that.
They're only going to go up if you're willing to pay $30,000 or $40,000 to improve on your house. That just happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
$40,000 more than mine for it.
Live across from me, the house is going up to $400,000.
And it doesn't happen right away. It's
No,
when
it's a few-year
the assessor
lag.
has to not just single out a property, or it would be discriminatory to raise because that particular house sold for a lot more. It's when she does a whole entire neighborhood, and in order to keep up with what the state requires for us with 100% market assessment, even though it doesn't quite end up that always. But anyway, she has to do the whole, what she considers a neighborhood, and she has each area of the town, I don't know, like somewhat circled where she considers that, you know, the neighborhood, and looks at sales. And any of your, like when people come in to complain about an assessment, which is always, what, the third Tuesday of May, I think? The thing that they, well,
Totally right.
okay, but the thing is that we're always a year behind, so any sales are not, like the most recent ones, which is a lot of times what people think and come in with, but she's always like the July 1st taxable status date of the year prior. So some of these sales that have been unbelievably high lately won't kick in for, you know, at least another year or more before it would make any changes. So I don't know if that made sense.
Migration too.
That what?
We're impacted by migration. People are leaving the cities, they're leaving the
Oh,
fire
true.
areas, they're leaving the Gulf Coast.
Okay.
It hasn't hit that hard up here yet, but it's going to.
Any other comments on the budget?
I'll just thank Greg. In fact, we all have notebooks that he put together when we went through the budget with him, and if you look at his, it's probably about 3.5 inches thick. Can you imagine, page by page and line by line, having to go through that to put this all together?
Your last one.
Yeah,
Maybe.
maybe. So thank Greg, and then I know Claude went through it line by line with him prior to all of us getting involved line by line. So, thank you.
Okay. With that, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Budgets for 2021 are now in place, and Greg can go do the tax cap thing that he's got to send to Albany. Item number 5 is a resolution in support of the Horrigan Family Dairy Farm owned by High Meadows Acres LLC and ADR Holdings LLC application to the New York State Department of Ags and Markets Farmland Protection Implementation Grant Program via voluntary conservation easements. Entertain a motion to support their application.
Move.
Second.
Darcy, you probably know as much about this as anybody. You want to speak to it?
Sure. So New York Land Trust is working throughout New York State, but specifically in Onondaga County to conserve land to be forever green. So as they did a few years ago, the Slate Farm on West Sorrel Hill Road, you know, now that that's in that easement, that can never be developed. So it's just a conscious effort to preserve our farmlands and the rural character of Van Buren.
Right. And I wholeheartedly support it, and I think we're going to find out how the board does here in a second. So, any more discussion?
Yeah, the tax impact is zero.
Zero tax impact.
Yeah, most are already under an ag exemption anyway, so it would pretty much be the same.
No, I'm glad to see it. It's finally become affordable for some of these people.
With that, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6 is reintroduction of local law C 2020 parking regulations on Higgins Drive concerning commercial vehicles, and it sets a public hearing for November 17th, 2020 at 7 p.m. Entertain a motion to that effect.
Moved.
If you remember, 2 weeks ago, we had gentlemen in here from the condo association, and they come to find out that they were all commercial vehicles that were parking along the roads overnight and during the day. and blocking sight distance and other things there on Higgins. So we've amended this to incorporate it only for commercial vehicles. I guess that's enough about that.
Yeah, I appreciate that revision. I think this will address the problem as opposed to having to go too far, so, hopeful.
I need a roll call vote, please, on the reintroduction.
Mrs. Vandewater?
Yes.
Ms. Wozniak?
Yes.
Mr. Tupper?
Yes.
Ms. Dickman?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Ms. Saban?
Yes.
Mr. Sykes?
Yes. Okay, entertain a motion to employ a property appraiser for a parcel of town-owned property per RFP results. I sent the RFP out to 2 property appraisers here in central New York. I had one response. I had one said they were gonna quote and they didn't, and another one said they were too busy and I didn't hear from the other 2. So entertain a motion then to employ the appraiser. It'd be Pomeroy Associates at the cost of $3,250. Entertain that motion.
Moved.
Pomeroy is one of the more familiar ones here in central New York. So, any other discussion?
And this is more a commercial piece of property that the town owns and is thinking about selling.
It's a parcel that is currently landlocked, and it borders Route 690 at the Seneca River. So there's about 540 feet of river frontage, and it's kind of a diamond-shaped piece of property, a triangle shape. And we need to get it appraised to see how we're going to dispose of it in the future. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Counselor Community Reports and Comments, MF.
Nothing at this time.
Okay, Darcy?
I guess I'll just add that, since we just adopted our budget, the county budget was postponed till today, actually starting the process, and County Executive McMahon is proposing a tax decrease on the county line as well, and the sewer rate is proposed to stay flat. So I think that is good news overall for taxable properties in Van Buren.
Good.
That's all.
Wendy?
Nothing.
Ron?
Nothing.
Howard?
Yeah, my last meeting at the Kentonwood Senior Center will be December 1st at 7:45 in the morning.
Wendy, you gonna accompany you on that one?
I'll be there.
They're probably gonna have a big cake for you, aren't they? Yeah, won't they have a big cake for you? Send off?
I'd be glad to get rid of you.
Pat?
I have nothing further, thank you.
I have nothing. Doug?
Yeah, I actually would like to say something real quick. This time of year is when I plead with the residents that, the no parking ban for streets goes into effect November 15th. We had a little test run this Monday. We got a little bit of blast of snow. Some people may have seen it more than others. I called in several of our guys. They responded very quickly, loaded our trucks up. Everything went great for our first run, thankfully. But I urge everybody to please pay attention to the parking ban. This year, it's a strange time we're in. There's a lot of people that their schedules are different. The usual things of kids coming home at particular times and so on might be all changed. So you never know when kids coming around that snowbank or people are pulling out going to work. Please just slow down a little bit, be careful, and try and keep the roads clear so we can come through to clear the roads to make sure they're safe for everybody to travel on. You help us and we'll help you try to give you the best roads we possibly can this way. That's it.
Can I
Okay.
ask a question?
Certainly.
How does it snow on Monday and it's 69 on Friday?
Central New York.
And what was the date that you wanted that to start?
It's November 15th.
November 15th is the official no parking ban on roads in town, Vancouver,
Through April 15th.
through April 15th. Yeah.
Tax day.
They're up on most of them, yeah.
They're posted at the entrances.
This week, as I spoke to you in the last meeting, this week, we're putting up all the delineators. We wait till after Halloween. But the guys are out there marking all the curves and stuff and so on, so you'll see those going up this week.
Okay, thanks, Doug. Citizens' comments, anyone wishing to address the board? Seeing none. Jason, you got anything?
I have nothing.
Rich? Okay. Anyone else with any other business come before the board? I'd like to call for an executive session to discuss labor negotiations and a grievance. Entertain a motion to go into executive session for those purposes.
Moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We do not anticipate any action coming out. Unfortunately, I have to ask you to leave because this is the room we have to social distance in, so